Hello everyone, my name is Tom Knowland. I work for Leeds City Council in the Council's Sustainable Energy and Air Quality team, and my presentation to you is about the importance of civic collaboration, specifically between local authorities and universities, and I'm using the case study of Leeds City Council and Leeds Beckett University. We're fortunate in Leeds to have two world-class large universities, Leeds Beckett University and the University of Leeds, and we've had a collaborative arrangement between Leeds City Council and both universities for a few years now. So I myself am seconded part-time to Leeds Beckett University and also to the University of Leeds. The main purpose of this secondment is to strengthen that collaborative relationship between the council and the universities, develop the role of the Leeds Climate Commission, acting as the lead officer for the Leeds Climate Commission, broaden that area of collaborative interest beyond just sustainable energy, although that is currently the kind of cornerstone of this relationship, and then long term to establish and embed relationships, processes between the council and both universities in order to create the environment within which effective collaboration is more likely to succeed. These are some examples of some of the collaborative projects that we've already got underway between the council and Leeds Beckett University. I'll just whiz through them very quickly. So electric heating in high-rise. This is looking at improving the electric heating systems in the council's high-rise blocks. We have over 100 high-rise blocks in Leeds, and they're mostly built in the 1960s with often poor energy performance and outdated electric heating systems that need to be improved, and we're working with the university on that. Sustainable procurement. Leeds Beckett University is one of the kind of leading organisations in the city around sustainable procurement, and the council has undertaken to improve and embed sustainability within its own procurement system. So we've had useful meetings and collaborations with the university so that we can learn from their experience in how to embed sustainability into procurement systems. Hydrogen is a up and coming technology and jostling for position in the government's policy framework. Leeds was identified as a city that could convert to 100% hydrogen at some point in the future. And Leeds Beckett University has been undertaking crucial research across the country on how members of the public perceive hydrogen as a potential heating fuel in their homes. Building information modeling, or BIM, as some of you will know it, is still a relatively new activity in local authorities. It's much better established in the commercial building sector, but we believe there is a real opportunity to develop sort of good practice, best-in-class sort of standards around the use of BIM, particularly using local authorities as a kind of a case study for that, and using our existing portfolio of homes and other buildings to develop what BIM might mean for local authorities. And closely related to that is the rising issue of modular housing. In the future, more and more homes are going to be built using modular systems, and Leeds will be no different to any other city in that respect. So again, there is the opportunity to use the Leeds experience to inform future development of this technology. And then finally, smart cities. Leeds has an ambition to be a smart city led and informed by data, and we're installing a citywide network of data receptors across the city, making use of the city's street lighting network to achieve this. And Leeds Beckett University are very much part of that, using some of their expertise on climate modelling and the heat island effect to build that into this network so that we can unlock more and more data and information about the state of the city's environment. This next slide is a high-level overview of some of the council's priorities across the city of Leeds. And the interesting thing to do, of course, is then to map those priorities against the university's priority research areas, so for research areas for Leeds Beckett University and the University of Leeds. And what immediately becomes clear is there's a very close relationship between the priority issues in the city and the research expertise of both universities. So what we're able to do is to take that close alignment between the city priorities and the university priorities and start to develop that in further. And we've been doing a bit of work with the University of Leeds on this, mapping the existing partnerships and working arrangements between organisations, consider how we can encourage more collaborative working, look at the best ways to identify the potential for making better use of a knowledge exchange and addressing the city priorities, and understand what it is that makes for effective collaboration, what barriers are commonly encountered, and how kind of administrative processes can be streamlined for mutual benefit. So what we end up with then is Leeds as a kind of living laboratory for the universities in the city, a living laboratory for innovation, making use of citywide issues, citywide use cases, citywide assets, delivered by the council, and aligning those with the university expertise, maximising the impact of research and generating real insight into how to address some of the challenges that Leeds will face now and in the future. So zooming in now a bit on the issue of climate change and sustainable energy consumption across a city like Leeds. Leeds City Council declared a climate emergency last year with the ambition of working towards a net zero carbon city by 2030. And the Leeds Climate Commission that I mentioned earlier, which is a collaboration between the main large organisations in the city, have prepared a science-based carbon roadmap for the city to kind of inform how we turn Leeds into a low carbon city. As part of that, Leeds City Council has committed to becoming a net zero organisation itself, so committing to rationalisation and an energy efficiency programme to reduce energy consumption in council buildings, getting all of our electricity from renewable sources, purchasing only low emission vehicles for council's use by 2025, and also removing payment for the use of staff petrol and diesel cars also by 2025. We've also started to embed climate emergency into the way the council does its business. So now all council reports have a climate emergency section showing the impact of that report on the climate emergency. As I mentioned before, we're working closely with Leeds Beckett University to help us embed climate emergency considerations into every stage of the council's procurement process. And alongside all of this, we're developing an accredited carbon literacy project for staff so that they are able to embrace this challenge as part of their working lives. But of course, the council can't do this all by itself. This requires action across the city as a whole. So the council is also enabling many other actions across the city. So reducing the need to use a private car in the city, improving council homes and private homes in the city, which I'll come back to in a moment, ensuring a just transition to a low carbon economy, addressing consumerism, food consumption and waste, embracing the issue of the need to improve landscape and biodiversity, and ensuring that we have a city that is carbon literate as well. But focusing in on housing, because this is a real area of collaboration between the City Council and Leeds Beckett University. So housing, the carbon emissions from housing make up roughly a quarter of the emissions of the city. So they are a really significant component of the city's carbon footprint. And the table here just shows that council-owned properties are actually some of the better performing properties in the city, whereas we've got a real challenge, particularly in owner-occupied and the private rented sector, where it's a much bigger challenge to improve the energy efficiency and carbon performance of those properties. So what we're planning to do is work with both universities to drill into this issue in a lot more detail and find out what makes for a successful housing housing program that addresses carbon emissions. That'll take into account new build homes as well, although those will gradually getting better. But of course, the biggest challenge for us is the homes that are already built. Most of the properties in the city that will be here in 2050s, for example, have already been built, and Leeds has more than its fair share of poorly performing, particularly private homes, often back-to-back terrace properties that are built to poor levels of construction. And we think we can work with the university to help us understand, so what is it that's needed to change the energy performance of those buildings, and how can we be sure that those energy efficiency improvements are done to a very, very high standard, and that we're upskilling the workforce in the city to allow us to be able to deliver on this low carbon ambition. So I'll conclude by saying that our experience in Leeds has been that the imperative for civic partnerships in research is now more pressing than ever, as a combination of financial pressures, Brexit, COVID-19, devolution, and we can add climate change to that list as well, presents an urgent need for academics and local authority policymakers to collaborate much more closely in responding to these unprecedented challenges and pursuing new opportunities of mutual benefit. I've tried to illustrate that using the experience, the positive experience that we've had with Leeds Beckett University, and the opportunities there are to develop that relationship, particularly around our ambition to address the climate challenge, particularly around housing. But I suspect it will also cover many, many other issues. So thank you very much for listening. I'm happy to take any questions, comments in the discussion session that will follow.